Hello and welcome back to Travel Visionaries, the podcast about the future of the travel industry brought to you by the European Sustainable Hospitality Club. Whether you are a hotel manager, travel agent, tourist guide, or a student, you're sure to pick up tidbits of actionable advice when you listen to Travel Visionaries. Join the conversation along with Maribel Esparcia and Dan Pontarlier with the most knowledgeable people that are part of our industry. Let's go!
Thank you very much, Pablo. I would like to start asking really, in the current situation, how do you see really how we can really recover from the in a post-pandemic situation, especially in markets like Spain? How do you see the market evolving, and what challenges do you think that we are facing, and not only as a society but also as an industry with the complexity that it has?
Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you, Maribel, for the question. There's a couple of questions in one. So in terms of the pandemic, I mean, it's all a bit of a look into the crystal ball because nobody has an answer yet. So we got the Pfizer news, also the Russian vaccine, Sputnik 5, apparently is doing good progress. But we don't really have a final answer in terms of when will the vaccine be available. And once it's available for enough people, when will these people be willing to travel? But that's the second part. I mean, I was hearing the other day that, for example, here in the UK, I'm based in London, they were considering buying like 20 or 30 million of doses of the vaccine. But it's what, 60 million people in here. So it's not even enough for half of the population of the UK. And even if Pfizer has X amount of million of doses, then it's 8 billion people in the world. So when will there be enough vaccines for everybody? That's the first question. So first is when the vaccine will be ready. Second, when will everybody be allowed to get the shot, if they have to, because apparently for most countries it won't be compulsory. It will be an option. So that's another big challenge. If people are given the option and they prefer not to get the jab, then can they travel or not? It's a lot of little parts are involved on that equation. But going back to assuming that it will be ready, let's say from next year. Some people are talking about Q2, maybe Q3. So moving to summer 2021. How will we recover? From my point of view, and just a personal point of view, I think most of the business industry, when it comes to hospitality, is going to be gone. I was reading yesterday, Amazon has just saved $1 billion in travel expenses this year from their staff not traveling. That's a lot of money they're saving, and they will reconsider if all those trips were necessary. So some events will continue, although probably not at the level of the number of participants that they had in the past. Some business travel will continue as well, but that common gentleman or lady traveling abroad, taking a flight every Sunday evening to work abroad for 2-3 days and coming back, or flying in the morning, let's say, for example, London, Amsterdam, to attend a meeting and fly back. I think those will disappear because of this sort of technology, which has developed in the last few months. So the big chunk of the business urban hospitality industry is going to be wiped. That's what I foresee, at least for the next few months or couple of years. There is a pent-up demand for leisure holidays, so people really want to travel on holidays. We saw that now when there was a bit of a gap. There was this corridor between the UK and the Canary Islands and Spain, which was, coincidence or not, during half term in the school. So everybody shoot off and the flights were full to go to the Canaries. Right after the half term, the second lockdown started. So I don't know if it was a coincidence, but obviously it shows that people want to travel. So lesser destinations will get the demand again. Urban, not that much. Challenge is, and going back to the usual original point, we're talking about this sustainability or that kind of tourism, is how sustainable is that sort of tourism destination? So if we think it's been the last few years, there was this talk about over tourism. And it's famous, for example, it was Barcelona, Venice, and Amsterdam, the three top cities in Europe, that there were a lot of people were complaining because they were like overexploited. Now, obviously, people who are profiting from that, they've really seen reality this year, So, and the ones complaining might be suffering now the lack of tourists. So it's all about finding the balance in the number and quality. So there is a lot of talk about if the numbers are sustainable. So
I wonder, yeah, that is very interesting point. Actually, how we can really offer that quality over quantity. What are your recommendations here, or what do you think is the best way to move forward with a more qualitative tourism rather than more volume? I'd be interested in learning your point
Mhm.
of view there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, back to the Spanish example. So last year we have 83 million tourists. Spain was the record, the highest ever, second number
Mhm.
two globally. And now people is asking, say, well, when are we going to go back to those numbers? It's a sustainable.
Mhm.
Thing is, it's not that much about numbers, like how you spread them. So obviously, if most people, if you have like 20 million going to Barcelona, 15 million going to the Canary Islands or the Balearics, then that's not sustainable in certain places. Then again, it's very seasonal. So you might have Mallorca or Ibiza full in the summer and completely empty in the winter. So it's about trying to change the segment, trying to attract a different clientele, or switching the reclaims to these people, so they might be attracted to go either to a different destination within the country or a different season, and not focus
Absolutely.
that much on the same type of guests
Same.
again and again.
Yes.
Mhm.
And also that is a challenge for recruiting as well. And when they have operations for 6 months and then 6 months people is unemployed. So that is not quality employment either. So how we can really support the quality employment through quality? Because I think if we have a more quality offer, we might help with the employment conditions and I don't know, offering people jobs during the whole season, during the whole year, not just for 6 months maybe, and that will support teams in a way and business productivity. I don't know.
Mhm. No, yeah, I mean,
But,
there are destinations, for example, you have it in the Pyrenees or the Alps, where in the winter is ski resorts, and then in the rest of
mhm,
the year, you have people going hiking or cycling or just enjoying walks in the nature. So there is some destinations already have that sort of mix. In others, it's missing, and they're trying to look for some sort of alternatives. I think, for example, the Canary Islands, they're like very lucky with the weather, fair enough, but it's not all about beach and sunbathing. They also have a lot of sport events. For example, they have triathlon in Lanzarote, or they have a lot of cycling teams who do the winter season in their sports teams. Football as well, they do the preseason in the winter. So there is a mix of business in there. So it's about finding alternatives, which are there. It's not that much about you have to reinvent the wheel or you have to invest a massive amount of money. In Spain, we're very lucky that we are I think the second or third country in terms of UNESCO Heritage of Mankind monuments, but we don't sell it well. And I think that's the main problem we've had historically. We don't know how to sell ourselves in general.
yes,
We've had
that is
tourists
a very
because
good point.
we had tourists
Very good.
because we had good weather, and it was safer than going to the Middle East, and it was closer than going to Greece or Turkey, and that's a reality. So they were just coming. We just have to open the doors and let them in. So when we have competitive market, it could be either safer, like Tunisia or Egypt for certain years, or higher quality. Tourists will go there. If the only thing you offer is like nice weather and cheap beer and food,
Yeah.
if they
What is
don't
your
care.
USP? Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, if they don't care, a tourist in a resort doesn't care. I mean, a certain segment, right? Doesn't care if in
Mhm.
Spain, in Greece, in Italy, or in Mexico. It's just about like
Absolutely.
having being a nice resort, safe, cheap, and with good weather. Right? You need to offer something else, and in Spain we do have it. Thing is, how many of those tourists know about, for example, around Segovia, you have, Madrid, you have Segovia, Avila, Salamanca, Toledo, all heritage of mankind cities, amazing cities. How many people abroad know them? Whose fault is that?
I love that point because it's all about how we position ourselves to the source markets, and we need to improve the positioning here. And 100% we do have alternatives to that kind of tourism, and we can attract potential customers. So we have a more sustainable. And I think what you said is also very important that we have tourism and it's directly I would say like more cross-sectoral approach. So we also offer culture, we offer sports, we offer complement different complements and besides the whole pure vacation as we understand vacation here. So I think that is very interesting point, and I want to understand how with that we can really improve um, or how it's going to change also as well the role of employees. So if we have a different model, or we are transitioning somehow to a different model, you said very well, business travel is going to be
declining,
really reduced or inexistent in upcoming years. For urban hotels or hotels located in cities or key cities like London or here maybe in Barcelona as well for congresses or in Madrid. What is going to happen really with that, market share? What's going to happen with that revenue loss there? And how can really hotels adapt? Because maybe by selling other offers over having different services and products that bring more value, they can also have a higher employee, I don't know, maybe less rotation and having better culture because they are also changing their services or adapting their services to new circumstances. So it's really a matter of how do you see that model that we had for so many years evolving, or what are your maybe recommendations, or how do you see that scenario?
So, I mean, in terms of the inventory, we're talking about, for example, urban hotels. They will be missing that business case. So, what can they do? I mean, there's some talk now. A lot of companies are talking about this, creating working spaces for clients. I have my questions on that. I think it's more marketing than anything else. Why? Because thinking, for example, say London, I can either work from home or pay 50, 70, 100 pounds to spend the day in a hotel room. Just the day, I cannot spend the night. Why would I do that? Why we are in this now? It's purely for this situation now, socially distancing and everything. I have to be in my room. I cannot go to the restaurant because it's probably closed anyway. So why would I spend that money? For that, you already have the WeWork or whichever company that they already offer co-working spaces. So
Exactly.
I think it's more transitioning in terms of not just a couple of rooms, but entire units. And there are new ideas coming up. I mean, they're not that new. They've been ongoing in the market for a few years. You have co-living, for example.
Yes.
Well, you have your own apartment, self-contained apartment, and then you have social areas. You have a living room, a shared kitchen where you have like-minded people, which can be an alternative to just purely co-working, but co-living for mainly for single professionals. And also you have the student accommodation is an alternative as well. So student accommodations are turning more into sort of hotels/hostels, have many more facilities than they used to have, and better conditions. So the inventory of a hotel could be transformed into that. If you transform the inventory, the hotels, you also need to transform in a way that the staff, okay? And that has to, but they need to be open-minded in that sense. So that mentality is that, for example, I'm a receptionist, I have to check in, check out people, that's gone. Because most people now is going to be using a mobile to check in and check out. There is no need for face-to-face connection. I'm talking about certain hotels, okay? The luxury type of hotel will always continue. So it's not that much about check-in, check-out. It's about interacting with customers. And that person who used to be a receptionist needs to turn into a brand ambassador, for example, okay? And be there and be a mix of receptionist, concierge, guest relations, duty manager, all in one.
So we're talking about flexible roles, absolutely flexible roles, and adapting
100%.
to asset evolving services.
The thing is, as the industry evolves and the inventory might need to evolve, and you used to work in a hotel, but now it's called hostel, co-living, or whatever it is, you need to evolve as well. You cannot be narrow-minded and say, no, these are my duties. No, you're going to be you need to be an ambassador of the place where you're working. So the city, they say, that's about it, London, Barcelona, Madrid, whatever it is, you cannot have a guest coming and asking you, where can I find a nice Thai restaurant? Oh, let me Google it. No, you should know. Oh, but some people think, well, that's a concierge job. No, it's your job. You need to make the guest feel welcome. You need to be there to help the guest in any possible way. So people will need to, in a way, reinvent themselves to adapt to the new changes.
And that I'm thinking also technology skills and different other technology, also other skills that we as a professionals in the industry we might have to acquire, no, to reinvent ourselves or reposition ourselves as professionals, especially those that are now furloughed or they have no job or they've been laid off, how they will now incorporate to a new working environment that is very uncertain in a way, right?
No, 100%. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of offer sounds good. There's a lot of free offer online in terms of training and self-development, but there's a challenge there also, and it comes in terms of quality. So it's a very large array of options in terms of courses, webinars, masters, so-called MBAs, which I hope I put a big question mark in there. And people might fall into that kind of trap and say, okay, well, I'm unemployed, I'm on furlough, my job is a risk, so I'm gonna do this so-called master, which is gonna, they only charge me £500, euro, dollar, wherever it is, and now I have an MBA. I will really look into in detail into what kind of training or you're getting involved with, so that it really adds value to your profile and it represents you stepping up in your career. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time and money.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was actually discussing that the other day in a conversation we had. Is about really also the tourism degrees and some kind of let's put it nicely, some kind of products that are on the market that are not really industry specific, or they will not necessarily give solutions to professionals or to be really in an environment that they are useful in upcoming months. So if I'm talking about, for instance, the degrees that are purely tourism and they have no specific maybe things about digitalization or technology that we must know. For instance, as we used to know, I'm sure you know about all the PMS, the old PMS, legacy PMS, and all that we used to work like Opera and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
How are we now transitioning to new PMS, and how is really the potential employee in my company going to adapt if I change PMS to a new way of sort of working on the cloud? No, how is I don't know how to really say that, but it's all about having those products or university degrees or masters, whatever you were saying, but more specific, more industry specific, like sustainability skills, like the technology skills, problem solving, being flexible, right? So definitely that is going to be a need and change that.
I think, if I can say about that, I did study tourism, as it's called in Spain. Now, what was the practical outtake of those studies into work? Nothing. Okay. That's period. Okay. So probably when you study law, you become a lawyer because you went through the laws during the career. But in tourism, at least the way it was laid out some years ago, I'm talking about 20 years ago, fair enough. There is no real link between what you study and what you're going to be working. Okay. So
I did it 11 years ago, and it was
still the same. Yeah. All right. No, I'm more, for example, the system they have in Germany. When you study 6 months, you work 6 months. It's kind of professional education. I'm more into. I think that's the path. That should be for many years. So I've seen it working abroad. When you have somebody coming from Spanish, let's say university, who's been in uni for 3 years, and they had an 8-week period of internship somewhere, and then you have a German person, a Dutch person, who's had a 3-year university degree with 1.5 years of professional experience. You can't compare them. First of all, the other person is probably going to speak better English, the German and Dutch, to start with. And second, the other person didn't really have enough professional experience in there. Okay, so focusing on the Spanish market is a matter of language skills, and for that we need to go abroad. That's the best way to learn a language. And the other one is about, I think in general, doesn't matter the origin, the education should steer more into modular items. So as you were saying, professional education, what is my path? I want to be, for example, thinking on hotels. I want to go into finance. Okay, so you need the finance model, you need a leadership model, and you need the whatever it is. I want to be a rooms manager. Okay, so you need to end the front office management module, the housekeeping one, and a bit of accounts in there, and you put it together. Sort of the Coursera sort of thing, more evolved, obviously, deeper and more professionalized. But I think that's the way the education should go. So that not everybody is not like cookie cutting sort of education, but more fit to your needs, and you customize it. Okay, I'm going to take this course, which is 3 months, this one 6 months, and this one which is 8 weeks, and mainly based on practical education, as you were saying, demos from technology tools, conversation with professionals, video or online classes with leaders, away from what it used to be.
Absolutely. And you said something very important here in leadership. I've never heard about really models pure about leadership for hospitality. And I believe that leadership skills are super important for us, and it's not something taught, especially as I'm working maybe 12, 15 hours a day with people all the time. Not just your managers or colleagues, like you're 20%, you're all your time there, you're 100% of your time is dealing with people with complaints or with your teams or
Mhm.
so I think this is very and that's another question I wanted to ask you, like really how we can improve training in our industry, because training as we know it is very much focused maybe upselling in a very old kind of way. It's based on maybe loss prevention and things um, I don't know how to say
Yeah, fire and safety, for example, that's the usual. I mean,
fire safety. Yeah,
it is
exactly.
necessary,
All the
but
HR
that's basically
paperwork.
it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I do see that, and that's very well established. We already know, but we don't really train our staff in other, skills. So how would you change that? What are your thoughts on how we can really have quality training from inside out? So from the
Mm.
corporate environment,
Mm.
besides what is on
On working
universities.
outside, yeah. Mhm.
Um,
Think, I mean, historically, the hospitality industry is the one that invests the lowest amount of money in training, and that's a fact. Okay, why is that? Because it tends to be a very high rotation when it comes to jobs. So a lot of, large mentality is, well, what's the point of training you? You're going to be gone in 6 months. The other point of view is, I'd rather train you and you evolve and become better and stay here, which is, I think, it's Henry Ford who said that, rather than having you not being a good professional staying in my company. So it tends, there's a mix of mentalities, but there's a lot of the first one. There's no point in training because it's
mhm.
low skill, low paid, high rotation sort of job, and it's a shame. Okay, now how can we improve that? Trying to change that mentality, number one, and the other one is, if you train your staff better, they'll become better professionals and they will help you make more money.
Absolutely.
So you're
I
saying,
don't know who was it. Yeah. No, no, please go
no, because you said before about like the upsell training, which is what I do. It's a big difference between the, no, but I mean, it's a big difference between the old fashioned one and going to the more kind of the psychology. Okay, what's behind it? Why do you do it? How do you understand the guest? It's not like pushing and pushing and pushing. It's pulling from the guest, okay, and understanding the guest better, sorry, and making sure you connect with them and you help them. And that applies to reception. It can be sales. When a wedding planner is planning a wedding, it's not about like milking the guests and getting all the money from them. It's like making sure they have the best wedding ever. And you have to connect at a personal level. And some people have those skills, brilliant, and others they don't. So you have to try to polish it and train it internally. But so from the financial point of view, is if they are better professionals and they connect with the guests better, it hits the bottom line. You get more revenue.
No, absolutely, and it's important as well, of course, upselling because we're talking about the business here. But the point is that we need to make that matter. Like it has to have a significance, as you said. So connecting, upselling, with deeply connecting with your potential customer or your current customer that is in your hotel. Definitely, 100% agree with that. But I think I don't know. Maybe as you see different markets and how we're evolving or responding to the current situation, how or what tips would you give to make this a reality? Because sometimes we talk about it, we just discuss about those things, but it's kind of tough to make it practical. Whether it's transitioning from an old model to a new one, to training quality with quality to our employees, to caring deeply about leadership teams. We talk about things, but it's hard and tough to see that on paper and see that happening. And especially now, you would tell me, or most of the business leaders would tell us, well, but now I don't have my staff, or my staff is furloughed, or we have lack of resources, maybe. What can we do? Because our situation is not the best, which we understand, right? So how we
Mhm.
can, despite what's happening, still make progress. in those aspects?
Mhm.
What are your maybe ideas to
Mhm.
help there?
I mean, there has to be a mix. Okay, so when it comes, for example, with motivation, so you can, and you will see, you saw that at the beginning of the lockdown. You have people just showing up how many Netflix series they were watching. Well, the other ones who were doing training and improving their skills. It's a mentality said. It's like, oh, because I'm furloughed, I'm doing nothing at home. Fair enough, that's your right. Or you're getting yourself trained, learning new skill, new language, whatever it is. So that's a personal level. And then from the company point of view is to help them change their mindset. I think showing great cases helps, like success cases, right? And it's our duty, if I can include ourselves there, is I try to evangelize in that sense. Look at this example, it is working there, these guys are doing things right, and it didn't mean investing too much money. It's about changing the mentality. I was talking, for example, with a guy the other day. He specialized in environment and saving costs in terms of water, electricity, which at the end of the day is it's sustainable for the environment and also saving money for the hotels, right?
Yeah.
So he was telling me, well, listen, there is this sort of this Green Key Biosphere Hotel, etc.,
Yeah.
which is mainly just following some audits and standards. But then you ask that hotel owner or manager, is like, okay, how much water does your swimming pool waste every day? And they have no idea. How much electricity will your lights in your garden use a month? No idea. And he was telling me installing a meter is just a matter of a few €100, and you have every single power consumption and water consumption ranked. You have it in an app. Okay, everything is absolutely tracked, and you know exactly where you spend it, where you can save, and so it's all about making them see that there is a return investment. There has to be, otherwise there is no point. It's like, because you go to the owner and say, well, no way, I'm not going to waste my money in there. So it always needs to be a return investment. So taking the upsell example, if uptraining your staff costs you 5, they're going to generate you 100. That's a good investment. Installing
Mhm.
those meters for the electricity and water is going to cost you 10, but you're going to it's going to save you 100,000.
Absolutely. No, definitely. And this is a problem, I think, that in our industry we've seen very much, it's like cost-driven industry rather than investment. And we haven't seen all this training, whether it's upselling, leadership, or sustainability linked to an investment. And I do think this is a very good point. This is all an investment. It's not a company performing super well that allows you to spend on company, on employee. Is the employee, right, that is making well, that will drive you really revenue on the long term. I think that is the key and the mindset that we should have as we come back from this pandemic. I mean, I don't want to take all your afternoon. I want to have like your final thoughts and maybe, I don't know, deep really feelings about the industry. I know you're passionate about the industry. And what is your hope for employees as well as for positioning destinations in a way that are successful, and we have quality over quantity? What are your ideas, or yes, like how you feel about changing that?
I mean, I have mixed feelings. I mean, it's the industry I love, so I wanted to succeed, but I have my questions. So, I was talking with a guy yesterday. He was telling me, I mean, he's a hotel GM in Moscow, in Russia. This is only a pause; it's not a reset. That's a point of view. Okay. Then other people are saying, no, we should use this as a reset in the industry and try to change things. So who's right, who's wrong? Time will say. I mean, there is a lot of pressure from a lot of fronts, United Nations, the European Union, in terms of trying to change things, all the guidelines for the future. And that is now the right time to do it. But it's a matter of making the ones putting with the money at the end of the day, which are the ones deciding that it makes sense financially, that it's going to be a return investment. So if we put quality into quantity, so it's simple for the hotel. What's better, to have the hotel full every day, very cheap rates, and all the furniture, all the the laundry that involves the manpower you needed, or have lower occupancy at higher rates, higher quality of guests? So the worn of the furniture will be lower, manpower will be lower, and then you make more money. So it's trying to switch that mentality. It involves a lot of people at a lot of different levels. So you want to increase the quality. It also, you have to think also about the helping the local community. And sometimes we hear local community and we think of somewhere in Middle Central America or like Asia. No, it's your neighborhood. All right. So the hotel should be mindful about the cafes in the area, the shops, the nice little boutique, the locally sourced products, so that they care about the local community. Because I mean, to look after each other, and it's as simple as that. It's not rocket science, but it's kind of
Absolutely, and I think that's a problem. Sometimes we see it as a very big thing
yeah,
when we talk
global.
sustainability, sustainable development goals. Like, oh my God, this strategy. But it comes really down to helping, as you said, this local community buying locally, product sourced close to you, to your suppliers, caring about your staff, and really try to be efficient, whether with water, energy, whatever. And it's more simple than what we make it seem. I think it's just about putting priorities and analyzing what's your impact, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's the problem maybe because we have to step out of our operations. As you know, the industry, we are very much focused on P&L, F&B, front of house, revenue, that's it. But when we shift, we have to shift to sit down together for an hour. It's like, okay, what we're going to be talking about, and whether if it's external consultancy that does it for you or you do it internally, I believe that you still have to have that commitment, as you said very well. And it's at the end of the day who has the money or the revenue or who makes the last decisions. Como decimos en español, que paga manda. So how we can really make them involved, right?
I mean,
So not
one,
very good.
give me one very easy example. These little filters that you put on the taps, on the faucets or on the shower to save water. So somebody will say, "Oh no, I'm not going to spend whatever £5 or dollars per unit because I don't want to spend $1,000 now." Yeah, but I mean, probably not even in 3 months, you save that already. That is
Absolutely.
thinking of the environment and thinking long term, and it's very simple. And loads of hotels have done that already. So it's taking those little steps in the industry to try to be more sustainable at every possible level.
Absolutely, I 100% agree. Well, thank you very much, Pablo. I don't know
My
if you
pleasure.
want to share something else, but it's been very insightful, and I do really love the way you think and to push to that change of mentality. And if I can have one last sentence from you, something a statement, what would be your statement for today's conversation?
I like what you said. I think you put it in a sentence, like it's just about helping each other. It's as simple as that. So the colleague to the one sitting next to him, the boss to the employee to the supervisor, at a very basic, simple level. So instead of when you're going on the way to work, instead of maybe going to the high street international coffee chain, going to the local one. You're helping someone on the street. It's very, very simple. Now going to Christmas, instead of buying your presents on XYZ website, go to your local bookshop and buy from them. That's helping the environment
Absolutely.
and be sustainable. It is very, very simple. It's a matter of changing a bit of mentality. That's all.
Supporting community, your community. Okay,
Mm.
thank you very. I really like that sentence. To leave it as your last sentence in the show today. But thank you very much for being a guest in the Travel Visionary Show.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.